Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. The medical officers of health for both the Thunder Bay District and Northwestern health units have had their hands full this week dealing with new COVID cases and navigating the ever-changing measures being announced by the federal and provincial governments. Alex Flood has their reaction and some plans on moving forward.
The Thunder Bay District is reporting 10 new cases Friday, including one new death, bringing the total deaths to 69 since the pandemic began. 11 other cases have been resolved, and the district's active case count now sits at 57. Ottawa and the province have been introducing a number of measures, including capacity restrictions, as well as mandatory PCR testing for anyone returning to Canada. Dr. Janet DeMille says while reducing contact with others is imperative, she doesn't believe a complete lockdown is necessary at this time.
You know, the concept of a circuit breaker, I'm not sure I would call what we need a circuit breaker. I think we need to, collectively reduce our contacts with, one another and increase our immunization rates, especially on the third doses. We don't need a full lockdown. We have the tools to manage this without a lockdown, but we still do need some measures in place.
Meanwhile, the Northwestern Health Unit is reporting 24 new cases on Friday, bringing their active total to 81. That region has begun implementing several restrictions, including the suspension of extracurricular activities in the Fort Francis area for children aged 4 to 11. The NWHU's Dr. Kit Young-Hoon says the recent rise in cases is alarming, especially when not everyone is getting tested.
This surge has come on faster than any other surge we've had in the past. It does also, because of lack of compliance, we are very concerned that there is spread and significant spread within the community that we're not aware of. There are groups of individuals who choose not to get tested, so we are not sure if there are cases that are being missed.
Packages of 5 rapid tests went out to all school children in the region this week to help ensure in-class learning returns after the holidays. Rapid tests will also be available at the LCBO on Arthur Street in Thunder Bay starting this weekend on a first-come, first-served basis. Alex Flood, TBT News.
The Ontario Provincial Police have peacefully resolved a standoff at a residence in the Pass Lake area, which lasted over 9 hours. Police received calls about an armed man who had barricaded himself in his house. It started around 3 o'clock Tuesday morning at Portage Road off Highway 587. Thunder Bay OPP officers were joined at the scene by the Emergency Response Team and the Tactics and Rescue Unit. Initial attempts to contact the 35-year-old were unsuccessful, so the area was cordoned off and contained for safety reasons. An OPP crisis negotiator was later called in to speak to the man. After some negotiations, he voluntarily surrendered to police without an altercation. At around 12:45 Wednesday afternoon. OPP Sergeant Mike Golding says he's proud of the team's efforts to safely resolve the situation.
I would just like to acknowledge the fact that our members, the professionalism and the excellent work done by the Thunder Bay Police, Thunder Bay OPP, the Emergency Response Team and our negotiators for the successful conclusion and peaceful resolution of this event.
The reasons behind the standoff are still to be determined, and it's unclear at this point whether any charges will be laid. Golding says it was likely a personal matter which can be dealt with by the family. Meanwhile, the OPP's Criminal Investigation Branch is assisting the Treaty 3 police in a sudden death investigation on the Wabisimong First Nation north of Kenora. Police were initially called in the early morning hours of December 11th at about an injured person at a residence. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene and has been identified as 17-year-old Trent Hunter. While the circumstances of the death have yet to be confirmed, police are treating it as suspicious. Sergeant Mike Golding says the investigation is very intricate, with a number of agencies involved in the case.
A number of other specialty units were also involved, including the Major Case Investigative Team, the Emergency Response Team, our Forensic Identification Team, the Northwest Region Crime Unit. So it's a very big investigation, and at this time we're determining that the investigation, the death is suspicious.
A post-mortem examination took place in Toronto on Wednesday. Anyone with information about the case is asked to contact the OPP or Crime Stoppers. A bold step forward this week by the Township of Ignace, as it has officially announced that it will be Council that will be the body that makes the final decision on whether or not the community will play host to an underground nuclear waste storage repository. Ignace was one of the first communities to volunteer itself a decade ago as a potential host site for the proposed facility currently being explored by the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. A final decision by the NWMO on if Ignace will be a suitable site for the project is expected to be made in 2023, but one of the parameters set by the agency is that the community must be a willing host. Discussions of having the question on the ballot have been discussed by many groups and organizations. Ignace Mayor Penny Lucas says she believes the project will be an election issue, and by putting the final decision in the hands of council, it just makes sense.
I think that's going to be one of the ways where the community is going to show whether they are part of their willingness. That's part of the willingness process. So I'm sure that every candidate is going to be asked, are you in favor of this project or not? If yes or no, why? And that's going to show NWMO and I guess the rest of the world whether or not Ignace is interested in looking at becoming a host for this project.
Meanwhile, that study into the possibility of an underground nuclear waste storage facility in the Ignace area has passed another milestone this month with the completion of its borehole program. The program has been ongoing since 2017 and is comprised of 6 sites drilled down to 1 kilometer below the surface of the earth, where samples of rock are pulled and analyzed to see if the site would be viable for the facility. For the last decade, the Nuclear Waste Management Organization has been investigating more than 20 potential sites to build an underground storage facility for Canada's spent nuclear material. But slowly over time, all but 2, Ignace and South Bruce, have been removed from contention. The agency is expected to make a final site selection for where the project will be built in 2023, with construction not slated to begin until the next decade. Now, with the completion of the borehole program, much of the Ignace-based project area will move into the labs for testing of the rock composition and studies on where or if underground water sources could be affected should the facility get the go-ahead. This is where NWMO section manager and hydrogeologist Alexander Blythe gets really excited.
So that's what's going on right now is it's hydraulic testing. This is really key to our project. We want to make sure that ultimately our site is tight to water movement and that our fuel is safe against water getting into contact with our fuel.
But an issue has occurred which is both good and bad. In some sites, very little water has been discovered, which means the rock is tight, according to Blythe, and there is no water moving through any cracks or fissures in it, which is good. But he notes the lack of water poses a bit of a problem.
We also need some water to be able to prove how tight it is. And the chemistries, it's really, really important.
Blythe says there is still some work packages left to be done at the site, which includes capping off sections of borehole for further testing down the line. In addition to his work studying the site, he also makes time to provide information for people looking into details on the project.
I have done more even in the past, some in the earlier days when we used to do a lot of open houses. But tomorrow morning I've got a concerned member of the public that wants to come in and chat about the hydrogeology at this site.
But even with a shortening window of when to make a final decision and the borehole project still underway in the South Bruce region, Blythe is confident the analysis of Ignace will be completed before the 2023 deadline. The president of the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association is welcoming the province's announcement of a 2+1 highway in northeastern Ontario. The new alignment is meant to improve highway safety by using an alternating passing lane. Transportation Minister Carolyn Mulroney was in North Bay this week to announce the pilot project. The idea will be tested on 2 sections of Highway 11 between North Bay and Timiskaming Shores. The new design features a center passing lane divided by barriers, which changes direction every 2 to 5 kilometers. The price tag is far cheaper than 4-laning at around $1 to $3 million per kilometer. NOMA President Wendy Landry has been advocating for 2+1 highways for several years, and although she was hoping to see the pilot project in the region, Landry understands the decision and she's excited to see how the new system will work out.
Being realistic, understand, feasibility study wise, financially, it's a big investment. And so, they've done their work, they've done their research, and they've determined this area to be the perfect place for their first pilot. So, let's hope it goes well, and then it comes to Northwestern Ontario as well.
Design work for the pilot should be completed in January, and completion of the infrastructure will take about 3 to 4 years. Once complete, it will be the first 2+1 highway in North America. Helping out your neighbors is just the nice thing to do, especially around this time of year. However, the village of Rossport will be getting some extra help from Scriber for the next 2 years. It's part of a 2-year agreement that will see the larger municipality take over fire protection duties and help build capacity for Rossport to hold its own. As well, the municipality is still looking for ways to fund a near $2 million infrastructure project mandated by the province. The fire department for the township of Scriber will be lending a hand to one of its neighbors, Rossport, following an agreement between the two communities to provide fire services to the village located 19 kilometers west of Scriber. Council authorized the 2-year deal at its Tuesday meeting. Fire Chief Jen Morrison says Rossport had a fire team until 2017 when an agreement with the province ended and was without fire protection for some time until a temporary agreement was put in place with Scriber. He adds they have a bit of work ahead of them to get Rossport back in action.
We are in the process of, making sure that their facilities are back in shape. They've got a 1-bay fire hall. Right now, one of our spare trucks is down there right now. They previously held a truck down there, but it was in rough shape and wasn't really fit to continue on. So we've been actually put it into a training role. Our other goal right now is to recruit more people down there.
Due to the inactivity of the fire team in Rossport, there is only one active firefighter in the community. Morrison says this temporary agreement has the potential to become a long-term relationship. Council is also looking for funding options for a much-needed upgrade to its sewage treatment plant. The province has mandated the phasing out of chlorine and convert to UV light treatment, something that is difficult for the 40-year-old plant. Chief Administrative Officer Nathan Diaz says to bring the plant into the 21st century, $700,000 in electrical upgrades is required, with an additional $1.2 million for the UV treatment system. He says council is in agreement to upgrade, but there is a challenge for a small community like Scriber.
Once we have any of these regulations that come out, it's just a significant infrastructure change to put in a UV disinfection system for us. And finding the perfect program that this project can fit under is another challenge.
Currently, the township is still looking for funding for the UV treatment system and is waiting for a response on an application for the electrical upgrades. When we come back, a second Integrity Commissioner's report puts the spotlight on the Mayor of Fort Frances. Once again, a member of council in Fort Frances has been cleared following an investigation by the town's Integrity Commissioner. It's the second report presented in 3 months this time as part of an investigation into the town's mayor, who is alleged to have overstepped their authority as the head of council. Council was also provided the full cost of that investigation and a previous investigation into a councillor, which yielded similar results. The anonymous complaint alleged Mayor June Call had been acting as the town's chief administrative officer, and by doing so, contravened several sections of the Code of Conduct, the Municipal Act, and relevant policies of the town of Fort Frances. The investigation by Paul Hain began in late August and focused on events and meetings following the retirement of CAO Doug Brown. Hain found some allegations were unsubstantiated, but several others were not.
Acting as the chief administrative officer, that accusation was substantiated. And I just highlight two different times that Mayor Call had said, I was asked by council to act in the CAO position along with administration.
But despite that, Hain's report concluded Call believed an acting CAO was different. Ergo, her involvement with administration was obvious and knew legally she could not act as the CAO in any shape or form. In his recommendation, Hain says gone are the days of small-town politics, where councillors paid a visit to the town solicitor or meet one-on-one with senior staff about an issue. Going on to say, municipal councils are directors of multi-million-dollar corporations, and there is a growing culture to act like one.
Most of the accusations submitted by the complainant are substantiated, but what is not documented is the miscreant actions of Mayor Call were done with no malice, but with the best interest of the town in mind.
With that, Hain suggested Call refresh her memory on the role of the head of council and believes there were mitigating circumstances which led to her actions during the summer, to which he recommended no sanctions against the mayor. Call, being the subject of the investigation, was given the right to reply to the findings, to which she kept very short.
I just want to thank Mr. Hain for his work on this, and I appreciate his comments and his suggestions. And other than that, I have no comment.
Council later voted in favor of accepting the report and its recommendations. It later discussed a bill for a previous Integrity Commissioner's report which looked into a complaint against comments made by Councillor Douglas Judson. Legal fees for that investigation amounted to over $36,000. Council was presented with a motion to pay the bill, but some took issue with the wording of the motion.
Just the last part, and further approves any outstanding remaining expenses and fees for the remainder of the year. It just feels a bit like a blank check to me.
Other members of council agreed with Brunetta, and the motion was amended. Hain was also asked of what the cost for his investigation and report would be, and it was revealed a further $7,000 would be billed to the municipality, leaving the town with more than $40,000 in legal fees of a budgeted $5,000 for 2021. As 2021 begins to wind down, a major piece of reconciliation is about to officially take shape in Fort Frances. On January 1st, Colonization Road East and Colonization Road West will officially become Agaming Drive and Sunset Drive, respectively. The initiative to rename the roadways began in late 2020 and was passed by Council in May of this year. Mayor June Call says despite issues arising as a result of how the process was carried out and the negative discourse which played out in the community forums, she's happy and adamant that the renaming had to be done.
Change is hard for people. We know that. It doesn't matter what it is in your life. Change is hard. And so I think, by waiting and giving people the time, almost a year of time to wrap their heads around it and get ready for it, I think that made a more positive impact on everybody else.
Once the signs are replaced, several are expected to be sent to various museums to commemorate this one act, among many yet to come, of reconciliation. Members of Greenstone Council dedicated some of the evening to talking trash as part of discussions surrounding the impending closure of Geraldton's landfill during Monday's council meeting. Prior to amalgamation, 20 years ago, several of the communities that make up Greenstone all had their own landfills, with Geraldton's now having reached the end of its life. Garbage will be sent to Long Lacs landfill. Deputy Mayor Jamie McPherson says that will shorten the lifespan of that site, and as a result, Greenstone has started an environmental assessment towards a new centralized landfill for the entire municipality.
All the other landfills, once Geraldton is full, they will become full very quickly also. They were sized for the populations of the communities before amalgamation. So Nakina landfill was sized for Nakina, and Beardmore was sized for Beard. And once Long Lac is full, they will be right behind it. We can use them for a bit of overflow. They are going to get full fast. So that's why we need to look globally throughout the Greenstone area.
McPherson says the process will also involve Greenstone's neighboring First Nations and expects the timeline for the environmental assessment and construction of the new landfill to take up to 4 to 5 years at an estimated cost of $4 million. The landfill in Geraldton will officially close in 2 weeks. Officials with Delico Anishinaabe Family Care have announced that their 13th annual Christmas Wish campaign was another big success. More than 700 children will receive wish bags this holiday season. With help from the community, the wish bags overflowed with gifts this year for babies, children, and youth to help make wishes come true. The Delico elves have been able to personalize each bag for every child, taking into account their interests, ages, and Christmas wishes. This also ensured the donors knew exactly where their donations were going. Delico Director Tina Babinski spoke about the impact of this campaign at Christmas time.
Well, it's really, really important. It's really about bringing the community together for a common cause, and it's about taking care of our children and making sure that our children have a gift under the tree year after year. And so, you know, it's been really nice to engage the community and have so many individual community members, families, businesses, and organizations participate and fill a bag for kids.
Since launching in 2008, the Delico Christmas Wish campaign has been able to provide 6,400 wish bags to children, youth, and babies in need. A Winnipeg resident is facing a number of charges after being arrested in a stolen vehicle with $500,000 worth of cocaine inside. Officers with Ignace OPP first tried to pull over the speeding vehicle on Highway 17 on December 10th, but the driver didn't stop. Police discontinued the chase due to public safety concerns. The vehicle was then later pulled over in Zeeland Township east of Dryden. That's when officers found the drugs and also cash. The 28-year-old remains in custody pending a bail hearing. Coming up after the break, a fundraising initiative looks to assist those living with mental illness, helping remember loved ones. Time and supply is running out for those who wish to purchase an ice candle in Dryden for the annual Festival of Lights. Despite the mild temperatures for the last few weeks, volunteers have been mass producing ice candles for the people to place at the resting places of their loved ones at the Dryden Cemetery, for the festival to take place on December 24th. Organizer Tom Riley has been making ice candles for over a decade and has become a bit of an expert before joining several other community members who donate their time and water to make the candles specifically for festival. Donations are accepted for ice candles, which then go towards the Canadian Mental Health Association office in Dryden, and its initiatives are all a labor of love. His initiatives are a labor of love, and it gives him moments of serenity and peace when he sees the lights at the cemetery.
Incredible to see. There's, like I say, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lights that are there. There's cars coming and going. People just go and spend time. I know people go back. I go back a couple of times in an evening just to get the feeling, especially if the weather's good. Sometimes the weather's not so nice, so we don't necessarily spend the time that we can out there.
Riley says anyone who wants to get a candle should do so before December 22nd. A big holiday windfall for an Atikokan resident. Alice Morton is $100,000 richer after taking home the top prize with Instant Wildcard. The retiree says she's been playing the lottery for 21 years, and she thought it was a joke until she saw the prize amount. She says she plans to take a girls' trip to Las Vegas when it's safe to do so, adding it will also be a wonderful Christmas for her family. Before we leave you this weekend, we want to give you something of a programming note. This is the last new episode of Northwest Newsweek until the new year. But over the next 2 weeks, we are producing 3 year in review episodes that will recap 2021. We hope you will join us and remember the year before ringing in the new year. Thank you, and see you in 2022.